Get right to our newsmaker this morning. Congressman Rob Andrews, Democrat from New Jersey, terrific guest on the radio and on TV. Congressman, good of you to join us this morning.
Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So first, what do you make of the spat between President Obama, John Boehner, Eric Cantor? The president wants the jobs bill introduced in its entirety for an up or down vote. Eric Cantor and John Boehner say, no, it's not coming to the floor.
It's another example of the Republicans disregarding the American people and disrespecting the president. You know, I got to tell you, if George Bush wanted a proposal on the floor of Congress, it got there. We didn't support it. We didn't vote for it. But we never deprived him of a forum to put his ideas on the floor and take a vote. No one ever yelled at George Bush during one of his speeches he was a liar. No one ever told him when he wanted to address the Congress on a Tuesday night it had to be a Wednesday. No one threatened to not give him an extension of the debt ceiling unless he bowed to demands. I mean, there's a disrespect of Barack Obama that I think reflects a very troubling attitude in the Republican Party and, more importantly, a disrespect for the American people who want this jobs bill.
What do you think is causing that disrespect? Because
I don't know. I will not attribute motive to them. I will simply say this. Mitch McConnell, I think on election night of 2008, said that he would devote every day of the next 4 years to defeating Barack Obama and making him a one-term president. So they're pretty explicit about it. Their goal is not to move the country forward, is to move him out of the White House. And I think, by the way, that's a catastrophically bad political decision for them, because this time next year when people are making up their minds which direction to take the country in, I think they're going to choose someone who's trying to help the country rather than restore a political party to power.
Where does the Democratic Party go? Where does the president go? Where do the Democrats in Congress go, given the realities, given that this will be introduced piecemeal?
I think we go on the road like the president did yesterday, like we did over the break when we talked to over 2,000 small businesses, House Democrats did over the break, and listened. And, you know, what we heard was get a jobs bill done, get people back to work. And so we're taking it to the country and saying, look, there's a choice. You've got a president with a jobs plan. You've got Republicans who refuse to even vote on it, much less than support it. Which of these two do you prefer? And I think what that will do is turn the politics back toward our agenda, and that's the way you pass it.
What do you think is the most important element of the jobs plan as far as getting Americans back to work?
I think the spending on the highways and the roads and the bridges and the airports, I think it works in two ways. The first is it obviously puts construction workers back to work. But the second is it opens up opportunities for more jobs to grow. If you build a new clean water system in an office park, you get more office parks and more workers who work there. So I think that more than anything else would be a jolt for the economy that's needed. Obviously, the other thing, though, is to avoid a negative, David. You understand if we don't act, what will happen on January 1st is everybody who earns a wage will get a tax increase, because the Social Security payroll tax will go back up to the level it was before. For a $50,000 a year family, that will mean about a $1,500 tax increase. So at a time when we want consumers to be spending more money, taking more out of their paychecks doesn't sound like a good idea to me. And as the president said, by the way, in his speech, these guys all took some blood oath, never, ever, ever, ever to raise taxes. For heaven's sakes, let's not make an exception now when it comes to middle-class people.
What do you hear about the super committee that's trying to come up with some sort of long-term budget blueprint? Are you hearing anything out of the super committee that gives you some hope, or do you see this as being just sort of an exercise in futility and these automatic cuts, we should just plan for them starting?
I do have some hope. I think that the Republicans are now staring at a Hobson's choice. If a bill does not come out of the super committee, there will be major cuts to defense that make them very uncomfortable and very unhappy. I, by the way, think a lot of those cuts to defense can be done and should be done without in any way impairing the security of the country. I think we're spending far too much money in the defense budget. But they don't think that's true. And if there is not a bill coming out of the super committee, those defense cuts happen automatically. So they're now beginning to squirm. And if they have to get a deal out of the super committee, it's going to have to include the wealthy paying their fair share to reduce the deficit. The president said that. He's drawn that line in the sand, and he is correct. So I think the hope of the special committee is that the Republicans now have to choose between their anti-tax zealots and their pro-defense people. And if they choose their pro-defense people, there will be revenue. There will be wealthy paying their fair share. We'll get a deal.
Let you go. I got to ask you about the big New Jersey political news. Chris Christie, the governor, he's going to stick around. I know that the state legislature, all this November. Tell us the implications you think in terms of New Jersey politics, but also on the national stage. What do you, as a keen political observer, think that this does that to the 2012 Republican presidential primaries?
Well, I think what it does is the two-thirds of Republican voters who don't want Mitt Romney now have to keep looking. And if they wind up with Mitt Romney as a default candidate, I think the party that's going to have a problem motivating its base next year is the Republicans, not us. You know, the sort of common wisdom in Washington is, the Democrats are kind of dispirited and they're not going to come out for Obama. I don't think that's true. If you look at poll after poll after poll, about two-thirds of Republicans are looking for an alternative to Mitt Romney, and now they don't have one again. And so, I think that they're the ones with the problem. And
as far as New Jersey politics, Chris Christie's going to stick around for a couple more years.
You know, every seat in our legislature is up, and we're confident the Democrats will retain our majority in both the Assembly and the Senate. Governor Christie promised lower property taxes. They've gone up. He promised more jobs. They've gone down. He plays real well in the Reagan Library. He doesn't play all that well in libraries around New Jersey.
Good point. Well, Governor Rob Andrews, Democrat from New Jersey, we appreciate you coming on this morning. Always great to chat with you, and we look forward to chatting with you again sometime soon.
I appreciate you making me governor there, David. I appreciate it.
Did I call you governor?
I'll stick with congressman.
Oh, all right. Well,
not yet, anyway.
We're announcing now the Rob Andrews for Governor campaign. It has begun.
David, you have a great day.
Thanks, Congressman. We appreciate it. Congressman Rob Andrews. We'll be back after this.